welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 18, which is called Delicious Desserts, and you can see it's got a ton of gorgeous like ice creamy dessert kind of ideas and also a cupcake in there as well. And if you managed to get, I can't remember the number of the kit, but it was the sweet sorbet one, that came with like ice lollies and stuff, so that would go really nicely with this if you did get that. I know that was over a year ago now because I have a feeling that was like January 2021, but if you did get that one, then this would go really nicely with it. It would kind of expand the idea. But also if you got the coffee collection, I think it was a showcase, that would also go really nicely with this as well, because you could have the cupcake with the coffee. And actually, if you remember in my up close video showing you that, I was explaining how I turned the whipped cream for the top of the hot chocolate into a cupcake as well. So you actually have like the elements to create a proper cupcake in this one too. So you can definitely mix and match across some of the other Tonic sets that you might have to combine with this stamp club. So firstly, let's have a look at the stamps, considering this is a stamp club. And quite a lot of the stamps, I think everything, minus the sprinkles because you would stamp them onto one of the other elements, but actually I think everything has a die to cut it out, so that's really nice for this month's one as well. And you have multiple different choices of how you can create your kind of like ice cream dessert, because you've got different elements within the actual stamp designs, but you've got a couple of extra designs within the die cut designs, and you also have the options. So if you look at this cone here, you can see in the die set, not only do you have the outside edge which cuts out the stamped image, they've also given you an inside portion, so you can just completely die cut your cone if you want to, rather than stamping it as well. So I think that's a really nice versatile element of this stamp club. So talking of this gorgeous cone, this is like the proper ice cream cone in the set. It's one of those little flat bottomed ones, so they stand up nicely. I often actually like to bake cupcakes into these cones, so you could actually do some kind of theme with that as well. So you've got that gorgeous cone, really accurate looking to like what they actually look like, which is nice. Then you have got a cupcake, so with the gorgeous like pinked almost kind of wrapper that goes around it, and you've got the cake baked in there as well. But then you also get the gorgeous piped swirl of butter icing that goes on top of the cupcake as well. So actually most of the cupcake top is kind of hidden underneath the icing, but if there was a kind of design where you wanted to see the actual top portion rather than having a load of icing on it, then they've given you that in the actual cupcake stamp. So they haven't just given you like an empty cupcake wrapper that you then put the cream on top. You've actually got the cake in there, which is nice. So you've got the option to use it with or without the butter icing, depending what kind of project you're doing. And also maybe you want a stack of them on your card as well, and obviously you wouldn't be able to stack it if it's got the butter icing on the top, so you could stack a couple and then the third one has the butter icing on the top of it or something. So you've got cupcake and icing, but then you've also got, because you've got this cone, this icing could then become like a Mr. Whippy kind of ice cream coming out the top of this cone, which is a great, you know, pairing of the cone and a gorgeous like soft ice cream. Then you also have a gorgeous like sundae glass, so you've got the lovely sort of tall glass that you can have a sundae in. And I guess you could turn this into a milkshake as well if you didn't want to do it as like an actual ice cream sundae. You could do it as more of like a fancy milkshake, maybe with the whipped cream on top of it as well. So you've got the actual like sundae glass, then you also have this gorgeous scoop of ice cream which can go in the sundae glass. It could go onto the cone here, or you can actually put it on the cupcake and have ice cream cupcake. You know, that's quite a nice pairing to have ice cream and cupcake together, so you could put them on top of each other. Then you also have sprinkles or hundreds and thousands to decorate the top of your ice cream, so you could stamp these on top in whatever colour you want them to go in. I also think heat embossing them on top of there would look fantastic. I didn't actually end up using them because of the other techniques that I was doing, and I wanted to add the die cut sauce that goes on top of it rather than adding the sprinkles, but you could definitely add the sprinkles on top of the sauce as well, which is one of the dies in the die set. You've also got a little flaky too, so you can have the flaky poking out the top of like the Mr. Whippy ice cream. You can have the flaky in a milkshake, or you could turn this into like a fancy hot chocolate and have the flaky coming out of that. Or if this is a sundae, then you've got the flaky to go out of that as well. You've got half a strawberry as well, so you can do strawberries on top of the cupcake, strawberries in the sundae, strawberries and ice cream. You know, you can really play around with where you put the strawberries in this as well. And then again, you also have a cherry as well, so you can use the punny sentiments and say you're the cherry on top of stuff too. And you could have the cherry on the cupcake with the swirling of butter icing. You can have it on the sundae, or you can have it on your ice cream as well. Or there's also some dies that you can make a banana split with, so either of these fruits work really nicely with the banana split as well. And then the last two like little image stamps are a little heart and a little star as well, and I think these are just fantastic for adding extra little elements to the backgrounds. But I actually used the hearts as like little sprinkles to go onto my cupcake that I did, because there's this one that says sprinkled with love, so I thought the hearts were perfect for that. And I often, if I'm doing cupcakes, I roll out like fondant icing and cut out little shapes like this from fondant icing and sprinkle them on, so I thought that goes really nicely with that kind of idea. Or I think you can buy them in the supermarket as well, these kind of little sprinkles too. So those are all of like the image elements, and then we have some lovely punny sentiments as well, with a nice mixture of like a generic kind of font and then this kind of bubbly sort of font. It's like almost like bubble lettering, a sort of thick like marker pen almost written kind of a font. So you've got you're the cherry on top of my sundae, so you can do that with your sundae, or you don't even have to use the word sundae. You can write cupcake, or if you've got another stamp that says cupcake in it as well, you could do the you're the cherry on top of my cupcake. Your A, and then I'm not 100% sure what your A goes with actually, but I suppose it could be you're a sweet treat, or you're a treat, or if you take off the A, you could do you're so sweet. So you've got different options to mix that with. You've got sprinkled with love, you've got shake it, you've got treat yourself, and then so, you've got stay cool, it's your birthday, and then thank you cherry much. I like that one. I used that on one of my cards. I've done 4 different cards, and I used stamp sentiments on 3 of them, and then I used the die sentiments on 1 of them as well. So that is the stamp set. And then before I walk you through the whole die set, I'll show you which ones coordinate. So I'm pretty sure there is one for all of the different designs. So you've got the outside to cut out the cupcake, and that works really nicely to cut that out. They all do the perfect thing where you can still see all the black stamping through the die, so you can line it up perfectly, and they give a lovely narrow little white border around everything. You have got the sundae glass. You have got the flat-bottomed ice cream cone. You have got the scoop of ice cream. You've got the, if I can pick it up, you've got the swirl of buttercream. You have got the strawberry. It's quite nice to have a half strawberry as well, because often you just get the outside of a strawberry, so you know, the whole kind of strawberry. It's nice to have something a little bit different. You've also got the cherry die, you've got the flaky die, and then you also have the little dies to cut out those little kind of like sprinkle elements, which is why I ended up using it for this cupcake, because I was like, I don't have to fussy cut out 5 little hearts, I can die cut them out, which is nice. So those are all of the ones that coordinate with the stamp designs, and I was kind of a little bit annoyed because in the die set they have the words so sweet and treat, and I think they like missed out on an opportunity. They could have made it so that the dies cut out those same words in the stamp design, but then you also had the die cut one too, but that's probably just me being a bit picky. But I think that would have been a cool option to have been able to die cut out these words too. But I mean, they're easy enough to kind of cut around. Or what I like to do is take my fine fine black fine liner pen and like draw a scribbly box around them and then cut them out, so it makes it a little bit easier in that respect as well. So if I bring these dies back onto this sheet to show how they combine with the other kind of extra dies that you've got in here as well. So you've got this outside of the cupcake which cuts the stamp perfectly, but then you also have the interior of the cupcake as well, which this doesn't match up at all with the stamped image, but if you want to just use dies on your card and none of the stamps, you can actually have a completely die cut cupcake because you also have the icing as well in die cut form too, so you've got that gorgeous element. I didn't actually cut the die versions of these main three ones here. I was using the stamp and then using the die to cut them out, but you've got like these elements missing, so you can paper piece them back in a different colour. And on my card where I have used the cupcake on one of them, I actually stamped this again on a patterned paper and then fussy cut out the actual wrapper and then stuck that onto the die cut one to give like an actual patterned design to the cupcake wrapper as well. Then this is the interior portion of the sundae glass. So not only do you have the die that coordinates with the stamp, you then also have this one that can cut detail into the sundae glass, so you can have it as a completely die cut element rather than a stamped element. I'm not sure how that would line up with the stamped image. You probably could use that in conjunction actually. It might actually, because of the way these pieces are in here, I'm thinking that it might actually cut nicely with those stamped elements, but I haven't actually tried that. But I think that could be an option. You might be able to use that decorative detail with the actual stamp for this one. So that is the little sundae glass. Then you have the gorgeous little flat bottomed cone, and this one actually has a different pattern on it. So this is like all going horizontal and vertical, whereas this was the diamond kind of design, but you actually have that interior detail which gives you that elliptical sort of element on the top to give you that aspect of like perspective to your little cone as well. Obviously most of the time that's going to get covered up, but I mean depending on what kind of card you're creating, you could have an empty cone for something, or you could use it up the other way if you wanted to as well. You might even be able to turn that into something else. Kind of looks like a giant thimble actually. You could, or if you cut it off here, it would look like a thimble. You could use it like that. Maybe if you had the So Happy showcase, I think it was a showcase, that would work really nicely actually with this as a giant thimble. So you could do that with that lovely little flat bottomed cone. Then you also get the interior die for the icing or the whipped cream or whatever you want to use it for. So I don't think that, no, maybe it does actually, it might call, no it doesn't. No, it's a different swirly design to what's on the stamp, but it's another option if you just want to do everything die cut. You can actually have, you know, the icing on top of the cupcake and it's all just die cut rather than anything being stamped. Then you don't have any extra detail for the ice cream scoop, but this is pretty easy to add a little bit of colouring to make it look like a scoop of ice cream as well when you've just die cut it. But you do get this die, which I really love. Talking about that Sweet Sorbet Tonic craft kit again, they had a really lovely drippy die in that as well. I really like this kind of drippy effect. I really love this like sauce that's coming down the ice cream as well. And they've designed it really cleverly actually, because that curvature is perfect for the scoop of ice cream, so you can get the perfect placement of the sauce on top of the ice cream as well. And I've in my samples I've shown a couple of different ways of making this look like really lovely and glossy. You could either use your Nuvo jewel drops, which I've used on a couple of the cards, or if you're short on time, you don't have enough time for things to dry, you can just use your Nuvo Clear Mark ink pad and then your clear embossing powder, and you can clear heat emboss them to give them that lovely shiny glazed sort of a look, and it makes them look a little bit like they're still, you know, a lovely wet gooey sticky sauce on your ice cream. So you've got those dies too. Then you also have this one as an extra, so if you just want to do a completely die cut card, or if you did want to combine the stamping and the die cutting together, you've just got another dish to have your sundae in, or you can turn this into a banana split because you actually get the banana die as well, which I think is really nice, a nice added kind of bonus. And you can layer this up in any way that you want. I mean, you could just have the banana in there with like 1 scoop of ice cream and then the whipped cream on top of there as well or something, and maybe even the cherry on there too. Or the one that I've done, I tried to kind of make it Neapolitan ice cream looking, and then each of the different colour blobs of ice cream had a different sauce colour on top of them, and then I added the cherry on top as well, and I did it all into the die cut dish. So that card is completely die cut because you do actually have the sentiments that you can use for your die cut project as well. So you've got treat, which has the scripty word and then the bubble outside it. You've got sweet, and then you've got so you can do so sweet, or you can do sweet treat, or you might be able to mix some of these in with some of the sentiments that you've got in here as well. So you could do the you're a sweet treat, or maybe if you have friend. I think one of the stamp clubs that had those block die cut words in, I think there might have been the word friend in that. You could do you're a sweet friend and use those as well if you want to mix stuff in from previous stamp clubs. Then you also get a spoon, which I didn't end up using actually. I was going to use it, but I just didn't in the end. So, but you do actually get a lovely spoon in there as well that's got a little bit of die cut detail on the end of it, and that's a different proportion spoon to the one that came in the coffee collection die set. So if you wanted a larger spoon than the one you got in that, there's a spoon for you. You also get a candle, which I think is a really lovely idea. So you can do a small little cupcake for somebody and make it into a birthday card. So you've actually got the outside little edge, you've got kind of a diagonal design that you can choose to cut into it or leave it without as well if you want to. And then you also have the dinky little flame to go on top of it too, which I think is really lovely. So you've got those two little elements. And then the final one, you have this piece here, which I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, that's just an ice cream cone. Not really thinking, oh, we've already got an ice cream cone. It's not an ice cream cone, it's a wafer. Because in my sped up video, I was trying to make a card that was, it was going to use the sentiment, which I've still got here actually. It says stay cool, and I was going to do it stay cool, it's your birthday, and I was going to have it so there was a blob of ice cream with the ice cream cone on top of it, like you've dropped it and you're telling someone to stay cool. It just was not working, and I'll probably leave some of that footage in the sped up video, but it just was not working, and I was like, why is this looking so off and stuff? And it's because this is far too small to be a cornetto cone, and it's a wafer. So you actually can put this sort of in your ice cream scoop, and then you've got the gorgeous little wafer coming out of it as well. So I don't know why I didn't twig with that before. It was just when I was creating my completely die cut card, making a banana split, I was like, obviously it's a wafer, not an ice cream cone, because you already have this ice cream cone. But it is the right shape for an ice cream cone, like a cornetto cone. So if you did want to do something particularly funny, like maybe someone you know always goes over the top with their ice cream, it does make a funny proportioned little ice cream cone with like a massive scoop of ice cream on a tiny little cone as well. So you know, there's definitely other ways of using that, not just as the wafer, which I think is what it's intended to be, because it has that gorgeous scalloped edge on it as well. And actually oftentimes these kind of wafers come like 3, don't they? They sort of come like that, or 4 maybe, in a sort of semicircle. So you could even create that kind of element on your card as well, maybe as a background piece. Or actually, I think you could actually cut lots of these, use a brad to hold them together in the middle and turn it into a fan as well. I think that's a really nice shape for a fan. So I think there's loads of other different ways that you could use bits and pieces like this. Like maybe the drippy portion you could use up this way for like a splash or something. I don't know. I think there's probably lots of ways of using these different pieces for different kinds of funny, punny sort of cards for people as well. So those are all of the stamps and dies, and I'll be back in a second to show you the 4 samples that I've done as well. Okay, so I've got 4 cards to show you. The first one here is the one that I've done as a step-by-step that will be on the Tonic blog, and the other 3 are the ones that are in my sped up video. But this is the kind of like quick way or cheats way of adding that glazed kind of look to the sauce on the ice cream, and this is just using clear embossing powder and your Nuvo Clear Mark ink pad and just the regular clear embossing powder. If you didn't want it to have as much of this like pitted detail, you can just press your ink pad over the top of it again once it's cooled down, and add more embossing powder and heat it again, and the more layers you add, the smoother kind of effect that you'll get. But I quite liked the pitted effect for this because it kind of gives that, it kind of shows you the sort of texture that the ice cream would be, and it sort of looks like the sauce is settling into those that texture that would be on the scoop of ice cream. So I kind of left it for this one because I thought it would work quite nicely. But this card is completely die cut, so although the cherry is supposed to cut out the stamped image, it does actually work as a cherry by itself. Maybe the stalk is a little bit too thick, but it does work as a cherry by itself. So if you're doing a complete die cut card, you can actually use the elements as they are without the stamps if you want to, depending on what kind of card you're going for. And this is where I realised that that was a wafer and not a cone, so I've used the wafer there as well. And then we've got the banana here, which I'm presuming is half a banana. You know, you cut it down lengthways and the other half's on the other side of the ice cream to create like a banana split. And I wanted to do like a Neapolitan kind of banana split. So you've got the strawberry ice cream with a strawberry sauce, and then you've got the chocolate ice cream with a chocolate sauce, and then vanilla ice cream with like a probably toffee or a Biscoff kind of a sauce on it or something. And then I've coloured the die cut sort of sundae dish into just white card, and then used the lightest blue and the lightest grey pens from the Nuvo collection of alcohol markers, just to add a little bit of subtle shading and, you know, effect to it. It kind of makes it look more like it's a white dish rather than a glass dish, because if it was a glass dish you'd be able to see parts of the banana and the sauce and the ice cream melting down the bottom, and I thought that would be rather tricky to kind of create, making it look still kind of like cartoony and everything. So I decided to make it look a bit more like it was a white ceramic kind of dish rather than glass. And then I've just added the Sweet Treat die cut sentiments onto there, and I've used a little bubble of vellum to go behind them as well. And then I've done that, obviously the technique on the sauce to make it look shiny, and then I've just added some sequins on there as well. And for the colouring of the ice cream, I used the stamp set as kind of like a guide. So as I was adding my colour to this, I was kind of thinking, okay, on the stamp set you've got this kind of cloudy effect around the bottom where you've got like the messy part of the scoop that wasn't in the spoon. So I've kind of just tried to sort of emulate that with my colouring, using the darker colour of the colour that I was using to colour the ice cream with, to kind of give that sort of effect. And I think it still works quite nicely, so you don't actually have to stamp your ice cream scoops if you don't want to, because I know sometimes it looks a little bit funny if you've got some things that are stamped and some things that are just die cut. But I mean, I suppose if you had stamped the ice cream scoops and the cherry and had a stamped sentiment, that would probably balance it quite nicely. You know, the wafer wouldn't be stamped, neither would the sauce or the banana, but having 3 elements that were stamped might kind of tie it all together. But you can have fun with that when you're creating stuff, when you get your stamp and die set home. But the great thing about the stamp clubs is you have the stamps and the dies a lot of the time, so you can use one or the other depending on what kind of look you're going for. So it's nice that you do already have both, so you can pick. And it shows you, you know, just showing you this card shows you the difference in just using the dies rather than having the stamps as well. Because if I bring you the sort of cupcakey one that I did with the icing on, and I've done the ice cream on top of the, sorry, not the icing, the sauce, I've done the ice cream on top of the cupcake, and you can see how different effect you get. Because I mean, I know this sauce hasn't got the outline around it like the rest of it has, but I don't think it matters so much with that. And I suppose I have actually used the candle on this one, and that's not actually got the stamped outline either, and it does work quite nicely. So I reckon this one would work nicely with actually stamping the ice cream scoops on there as well, and the cherry too. So definitely play around with that, and you get different kind of looks depending on how you combine just stamped elements or stamped and die cut elements or just die cut elements. So then the other three that I've done all sort of match a little bit nicer. They're all using a lot of the stamps. So this one is really simple. It's literally just the cupcake stamp, the swirl of butter icing, and then 5 of the little hearts, and then the sentiment as well. I just really loved the simplicity of this one, and I used one of the patterned papers. What was it from? It was from the Sweet Sorbet paper pack, the purple spotty one, and then I just used one of the purple Nuvo alcohol pens and a little bit of the blender pen as well to kind of soften it, just to add a little bit of depth and shadow to it, so it kind of gives that look as if the paper case is kind of going in and out with that sort of fluted design. So I thought that works really well. And this is, so I've coloured the cake portion, die cut that whole element out with the die to give the little white border, and then I've stamped and coloured the cupcake case onto the piece of patterned paper, and then fussy cut it up to the black line and then put it on top. The only fiddly part is going around that fluted kind of element, but it doesn't look too bad, you know, it still looks quite neat, even though I wasn't as neat as I could have been. But if you do get any like little white bits showing, you could definitely use a black pen to go around that as well. Just be a little bit careful, don't use an alcohol pen if you're using patterned papers, because they tend to like to suck it in, and you'll end up with like black bits coming down from the edge, which won't look as good. But yeah, you can definitely use like a water-based black pen to add to the edge of it as well if you wanted to hide that a bit more. And then I've just used the butter icing kind of stamp on there as well, and used a couple of pale alcohol pen colours from the Nuvo range. Let me try and remember what colours I used, because it might be helpful to tell you. I think it was these two. Yeah, I think it was those two. So I think it was 473 and 476 that I was using as my colours for this, to get that kind of buttercream icing colour. And I think it works quite nicely. I didn't colour the whole thing. I added colour to the edges and then did like stripes going across it to give that look as if you use like a star nozzle to pipe it. And then I've just gone back in with a bit of the darker colour as well. And I think it gives that, you know, quirky, cartoony kind of look to it, which I like. And then I've added 5 of the hearts on top of there, and I coloured them purple to match the cupcake case. And then instead of using like the clear heat embossing, because these are a stamped image, they have the black outline, and obviously you wouldn't want the shininess to be going all the way over the white that's around the edge of the black outline. So instead I picked out one of my jewel drops. This is Periwinkle, pale Periwinkle, which you'd think would be more of a blue, but it's actually a really lovely light purple colour, and I've just used that over the top. You could definitely just use Morning Dew if you wanted to as well, which is the clear one, but because I have all the colours, I thought I might as well use the colours to go with them. And I've just you know, added that over the top and then let it dry overnight, and then you've just got little glazed sprinkles to go all over the top of the cupcake. And then I've just drawn one of my messy sort of scribbly banners around the sentiment and done the sprinkled with love one, and then added a scattering of sequins. Then let's show you this one next. This is, actually no, let's show you this one next, because these were the two that I was on track with making in my sped up video, and it was this one that I ended up making because the other idea with using the what is actually a wafer and I was trying to use it as a cone wasn't working, so I ended up making this card instead. So this one is using that gorgeous flat bottomed cone, and then instead of just having it as like a Mr. Whippy ice cream or as just a scoop of ice cream, I decided to pile them on top of each other. So you've got a scoop of ice cream that I've coloured in the same colours that I just showed you, to make it look like vanilla ice cream. Then I have done one layer of the sauce, which I'll tell you how I did that in a second. And then I've added the what I've now turned into Mr. Whippy ice cream on top of that as well, and then put a flake in it, and I've put a cherry on it as well. And I really like this kind of composition, the way you're sort of hiding the sauce under there as well. So I thought that worked quite nicely, and then I've done the thank you cherry much sentiment. And to get the gorgeous glazed effect on the sauce and the cherry, I've coloured with my Nuvo alcohol pens, you know, the two sort of red colours that I was using. And then over the top of it, I've gone with the Holly Berries Jewel Drop. So I've just added the holly berries over the top. So I could have just added the Morning Dew or even just used the Nuvo Crystal Glaze to give a clear finish over the top. But I thought, as I have all of the colours and this one was like the perfect sort of cherry kind of a colour, I thought I would use this over the top. So it's really intensified that red kind of colour. So that's how I have created that effect on that card. And then the third card, which is the one that kind of came together you know, out of nowhere really, because I had the candle and I had the sauce and I had a scoop of ice cream, and then my idea was to like cut it off here and then have the cone coming out here as if they dropped the ice cream and the top bit fell off and the cone fell on top of it. But because that cone is supposed to be a wafer, it was looking way too small and it wasn't really working. It wasn't filling up enough of the card, and then I didn't like the candle and stuff. So it just completely emerged into ending up being a cupcake with 2 scoops of ice cream, the sauce and a candle poking out the top with a couple of strawberries as well to balance the red of the sauce. So, you know, some of the time your cards don't work out how you intended them to, but then you can end up with a different configuration that you wouldn't have thought of putting together really. Like I hadn't really thought of putting ice cream on top of a cupcake, although I do like eating ice cream with cupcakes. So, you know, I just thought I would create a different kind of a look with this one, and I wanted to use the little strawberries as well, and it works really nicely to balance strawberry syrup or sauce if you've put that on there too. And then I've done the purple candle to go with the purple cupcake case, and oh, on the flame of this one, so I have, why is that so loose? I think I need to put some glue under that. But on the flame of that one, I coloured it with my yellowy, orangey kind of pens. And then I used the orange marmalade Nuvo Jewel Drops over the top of that one. Did I ever get any glue out then? There we go. So yeah, I used the orange marmalade on top of that one to give that kind of effect, which is one of the original Jewel Drop colours, orange marmalade. So yeah, you can actually use all of your gorgeous jewel drops to create coloured glazes over the top of things that you've coloured in, which I think is always a nice way of using them. And also on the strawberry, I've just added little white gel pen dots to the sort of outside pieces to look like those little pippy bits they have on them. And also I have also used a white gel pen to add little kind of highlights to the sauce on them as well, just on these two ones. I could do it to the cherry actually too, but I've just done it to the sauce on them. But I thought that gives a nice effect as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 18, which is the Delicious Desserts. And I love that it's such a versatile set that you can go from just a cupcake, you can add scoops of ice cream to the cone, you can do Mr. Whippy ice cream, you've got little elements to add as extra decoration or to make it more luxurious with like the flaky and a cherry. You have got the candle to turn it into a birthday card, and then you've also got the extra kind of die cut elements to create a banana split with it as well, and not just have it as a sundae, but you could definitely use any combination of these that I've used and turn it into a sundae with that sundae glass as well, which I didn't end up using. But definitely pick some of these, you know, I mean this one, you could definitely put the sundae glass underneath that, because that's the kind of thing you probably would get in a sundae, but make this more white and turn it into whipped cream rather than being whippy ice cream. And then you can definitely add your sprinkles onto things as well. I was just enjoying the sort of plain effect here, but you could definitely stamp your sprinkles, or even just use a white gel pen or a coloured gel pen to add some little sprinkles onto here as well, to give it that final little effect too, and add little highlights onto things as well. So I hope you enjoyed the up-close look at the stamp and die set. I hope you enjoyed some of the inspiration that I've shown as well. And stay tuned for the sped up video, because that should be out tomorrow, showing you these 3 cards as well. And you can see how I was messing around with the one that I didn't like and I ended up with this card. So Really hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in getting hold of this month's stamp club, I will leave affiliate links below the video and also on my blog post as well, in case you want to go over to the website and get hold of yours. And don't forget, you can use your TCK code if you're an active kit subscriber and get 10% off as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!